ing, ing, ang, ang, eng, eng, ong, ong, ung, ung, ink, ink, ank, ank, unk, unk, onk, onk. Sight word, sight word, sight word. Ing, ing. This pattern says ing as in ring. King, ring, sing, wing, cling, fling, sling, sting, string, swing, bring, spring, thing. King, k, ing, king. Ring, ing, ring. Sing, s, ing, sing. Wing, w, ing, wing, wing. Cling, col, ing, cling. Fling, full, ing, fling. Sling, sol, ing, sling. Sting, st, ing, sting. String, stir, ing, string. Swing, sw, ing, swing. Bring, ing, bring. Spring, spur, ing, spring. Thing, ing, thing. Jill will sing with the band. Jill will sing with the band. Cliff went on a trip last spring. Cliff went on a trip last spring. Anne King had a ring on her left hand. Anne King had a ring on her left hand. Jan had a brass bell on a string. Jan had a brass bell on a string. Jan can swing the bell and ring it. Jan can swing the bell and ring it. Fran will pack a lunch and bring it with her. Fran will pack a lunch and bring it with her. In the chess match, Max got the black king in check. In the chess match, Max got the black king in check. Did a bug sting Jack? Did Jack yell and swing at the bug? Did a bug sting Jack? Did Jack yell and swing at the bug? Rex can fling a stick, and Spot will fetch the stick and bring it back. Rex can fling a stick, and Spot will fetch the stick and bring it back. Ang, ang, ang. This pattern says ang, as in rang. This pattern says ang, as in rang. Bang, fang, gang, hang, pang, rang, sang, clang, slang, twang, sprang. Bang, b-ang, bang. Fang, f-ang, fang. Gang, g-ang, gang. Hang, h-ang, hang, hang. Pang, p-ang, pang. Rang, r-ang, rang. Sang, s-ang, sang. Clang, cl-ang, clang. Slang, sol-ang, slang. Twang, tw-ang, twang. Sprang, spur-ang, sprang. The gun went off with a bang. The gun went off with a bang. The quick cat sprang at the rat. The quick cat sprang at the rat. The bell rang at the end of class. The bell rang at the end of class. Jill sang with the band at the club. Jill sang with the band at the club. Did Jeff bang a hand on the desk? Did Jeff bang a hand on the desk? Did Jeff bang a hand on the desk? A gang of 6 men will dig a ditch at the ranch. A gang of 6 men will dig a ditch at the ranch. Max will hang the swing from a branch of the elm. Max will hang the swing from a branch of the elm. Max fell off the swing, but sprang up and got back on. Max fell off the swing, but sprang up and got back on. Ang, ang, ang. This pattern says ang, as in length. This pattern says ang, as in length. Length, strength. Length, ang, length. Strength, ang, strength. The ox had the strength of 10 men. The ox had the strength of 10 men. Clint had strength and did not quit. Clint had strength and did not quit. Strength, strength. Scott can swim the length of the pond. Scott can swim the length of the pond. Scott can swim the length of the pond. Greg cut 1 inch from the length of the shelf. Greg cut 1 inch from the length of the shelf. Pam can spell well, but math is not her strength. Pam can spell well, but math is not her strength. Strength. The slot in the box was 1 inch in width and 6 in length. The slot in the box was 1 inch in width and 6 in length. 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 Ong. 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 This pattern says ong as in song. This pattern says ong as in song. Long, song, gong. Tong, thong, throng. Prong, strong. Long, ong, long. Song, ong, song. Gong, ong, gong. Tongue, ong, tongue. Thong, ong, thong. Throng, ong, throng. Prong, ong, prong. Strong, ong, strong. Bill. Bill lost a thong in the sand. Bill lost a thong in the sand. Glenn cut a long length of string. Glenn cut a long length of string. Liz went on a long trip in the spring. Liz went on a long trip in the spring. Jill had a strong will and did not quit. Jill had a strong will and did not quit. There was a big throng at the bus stop. There was a big throng at the bus stop. Josh can bang the brass gong with a stick. Josh can bang the brass gong with a stick. The song of a thrush got Anne up from her nap. The song of a thrush got Anne up from her nap. A strong wind swept the mist and fog off the pond. A strong wind swept the mist and fog off the pond. Ung, ung, ung. This pattern says ung as in sung. This pattern says ung as in sung. Hung, lung, rung. Sung, clung, flung. Slung, stung, strung. Sprung, swung. Hung, ung, hung, hung. Lung, ung, lung. Rung, ung, rung. Sung, sung. Ung, sung. Clung, ung, clung. Flung, ung, flung. slung, slung, stung, stung, strung, strung, sprung, sprung, spur, swung, swung. Rick swung the bat and hit the pitch. Rick swung the bat and hit the pitch. A bug stung Beth on her hand at camp. A bug stung Beth on her hand at camp. Jill had sung a long song in the skit. Jill had sung a long song in the skit. The hat hung from a peg on the hat rack. The hat hung from a peg on the hat rack. Kent flung a rock from the top of the cliff. Kent flung a rock from the top of the cliff. The chimp swung from the branch with one hand. The chimp swung from the branch with one hand. Rex slung the sack of sand on the back of the truck. Rex slung the sack of sand on the back of the truck. Ink, ink, ink. This pattern says ink as in sink. Ink, kink, link, kink, mink, mink, pink, rink, sink, wink, blink, clink, slink, brink, drink, shrink, chink, think, stink, ink, ink, kink, ink, kink, link, ink, link, mink, ink, mink, pink, ink, pink, rink, ink, rink, sink, ink, sink, wink, ink, wink, blink, ink, blink, clink, ink, clink, slink, ink, slink, brink, ink, brink, drink, ink, drink, shrink, ink, shrink, chink, ink, chink, think, ink, think, stink, ink, stink. You must think of a plan. You must think of a plan. Nell had a kink in her neck. Nell had a kink in her neck. Dad lost a cufflink in the cab. Dad lost a cufflink in the cab. Mitch got an ink spot on the map. Mitch got an ink spot on the map. Max can scrub the dish in the sink. Max can scrub the dish in the sink. The shack sat on the brink of a cliff. The shack sat on the brink of a cliff. Anne got a pink dress at the dress shop. Anne got a pink dress at the dress shop. Chuck will drink a glass of milk with lunch. Chuck will drink a glass of milk with lunch. The cloth will shrink if you let it get wet. The cloth will shrink if you let it get wet. Mom got Nan up from a nap. Did Nan wink and blink and nod? Mom got Nan up from a nap. Did Nan wink and blink and nod? Ank, ank. This pattern says ank as in bank. Rank, bank, sank, tank. Rank, yank, lank. Dank, hank, blank, clank, flank, plank. Spank, thank, crank, drank, frank, prank, shrank. Bank, ank, bank. Sank, ank, sank. Tank, ank, tank. Rank, ank, rank. Yank, ank, yank. Lank, ank, lank. Dank, ank, dank. Hank, ank, hank. Blank, ank, blank. Clank, ank, clank. Flank, ank, flank. Plank, ank, plank. Spank, ank, spank. Thank, ank, thank. Crank, ank, crank. Drank, ank, drank. Frank, ank, frank. Prank, ank, prank. Shrank, ank, shrank. Mom said, "Thank you, Hank." Mom said, "Thank you, Hank." The cloth shrank when it got wet. The cloth shrank when it got wet. At dusk, the sun sank in the west. At dusk, the sun sank in the west. Frank drank a glass of milk at lunch. Frank drank a glass of milk at lunch. Hank can fish from the bank of the pond. Hank can fish from the bank of the pond. The ship hit a big rock and sank in the Gulf. The ship hit a big rock and sank in the Gulf. Dad said they must stop the truck and get a tank of gas. Dad said they must stop the truck and get a tank of gas. Frank can fill in a blank check and the bank will cash it. Frank can fill in a blank check and the bank will cash it. Unk, unk. This pattern says unk as in junk. Sunk, junk, bunk. Hunk, dunk, flunk, plunk, slunk, skunk, stunk, chunk, drunk, trunk, shrunk, sunk, unk, sunk, junk, unk, junk, bunk, unk, bunk, hunk, unk, hunk, dunk, unk, dunk, flunk, unk, flunk, plunk, pull, unk, plunk, slunk, unk, slunk, skunk, unk, skunk, stunk, unk, stunk, chunk, unk, chunk, drunk, unk, drunk, trunk, unk, trunk, shrunk, unk, shrunk. Max cut a chunk from a ham. Max cut a chunk from a ham. Max had a hunk of ham at lunch. Max had a hunk of ham at lunch. Frank slept on a bunk bed at camp. Frank slept on a bunk bed at camp. Frank can dunk Hank in the pond. Frank can dunk Hank in the pond. Kim kept her junk in a big trunk. Kim kept her junk in a big trunk. Beth did not flunk the big math test. Beth did not flunk the big math test. The dog ran from the skunk. The skunk stunk. The dog ran from the skunk. The skunk stunk. Brad had let the cap get wet, and it had shrunk. Brad had let the cap get wet, and it had shrunk. Onk, onk, onk. This pattern says onk as in honk. Conk, honk. Conk, onk, conk. Honk, onk, honk. The cab can honk at the bus. The cab can honk at the bus. Honk, honk. The bus can honk at the van. The bus can honk at the van. The van can honk at the truck. The van can honk at the truck. The truck can honk at the cab. The truck can honk at the cab.